a jury to decide the fate of Dante Martin, who's accused in the alleged hazing death of FAMU drum major Robert Champion. Prosecutors say Martin was the ringleader in the hazing that led to Champion's death. The jury has now heard closing arguments from both sides. News 13's Amanda McKenzie joins us now from outside the Orange County Courthouse. Amanda, what's the latest from there?
Well, Christine, both the state and defense have had their opportunity to talk before the jury and give their final arguments. Dante Martin is on trial for felony hazing and manslaughter and could face a maximum of 15 years behind bars if found guilty for both. Now, the prosecution went first. The state attorney, Jeff Ashton, pointed to Martin and said he was one of 15 people responsible for the death of Robert Champion. He said they all agreed to an act of hazing the night after the Florida Classic football game. He stated the mission of the people on Bus C was to deliver punishment by striking, punching, and kicking. He says he believes no one knew he would die, but killing by accident does not excuse a homicide.
When you have 15 students in the small confines of a bus, whose only mission it is to put as much punishment and as much hurt on a fellow student as they can as they attempt to go from one end of the bus to the other, that, ladies and gentlemen, is the most classic definition of hazing.
This bus thief thing has been going on for decades. Dante Martin had no part whatsoever in creating the rules of those so-called giants. Those giants that the school held to such high esteem are the ones that created the crossing of Bus C.
Now, defense attorney Richard Escobar also argued that this is a tradition that has been going on for years, and for years many people have survived it. He also picked apart the definition of hazing and said there is one exception, the fact that he believes this was all a competition. He said it was competitive in the nature so that people would have to start at the front of Bus C and run to the back through an obstacle of people. Now, he said that this is also all about choices. Robert Champion made a choice to participate in this tradition or ritual and was in the band for 8 years and suffered the same injuries as many of those before him. So he says for that reason his client is not guilty, but this will all be up to a jury to decide while they're deliberating today and possibly into next week. Reporting from the Orange County Courthouse, Amanda McKenzie, News 13.
We are following a developing story this hour with a guilty verdict in the first FAMU hazing trial. Late this afternoon, a jury convicted Dante Martin of the hazing that killed fellow band member Robert Champion. News 13's Amanda McKenzie is at the Orange County Courthouse where the verdict was announced. Amanda?
Marla, it took less than 2 hours for the jury to deliberate and come back with a verdict. They convicted former Florida A&M University band member Dante Martin. They found him guilty on all charges of felony hazing and manslaughter. Manslaughter carries the weight of a maximum penalty of 15 years behind bars, but that's not including the charge for felony hazing and the 2 other misdemeanors he was found guilty of for the other 2 band members who participated in the hazing ritual. Martin's family was visibly shaken in the courtroom and in tears. They did not want to speak on camera, but we caught up with Robert Champion's family to get their reaction to the verdict. They have been in court every day for this trial.
Right now I don't have any tears, but those tears, and they will come, I can guarantee you, will not only be for my son, but for that young man.
I think it's the only verdict the jury could have come to based on the law, and it's very it's good to see the jury is following the law. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't easy for them. You know, Mr. Martin doesn't seem like a bad person.
Dante Martin's attorneys say they will appeal and have even motioned for a mistrial. Judge Renee Roche says she will wait to hear that motion at a later date. His lawyers also asked that he remain free while he awaits his sentencing. That request was also denied. His sentencing is set for January 9th, and he has since been fingerprinted, handcuffed, and taken into custody. Reporting from the Orange County Courthouse, Amanda McKenzie, News 13.
It is a guilty verdict for former Florida A&M University band member Dante Martin. He was the so-called ringleader in the hazing ritual that killed drum major Robert Champion. News 13's Amanda McKenzie has more on what happened inside the courtroom.
Guilty.
Shortly after the verdict was read, Dante Martin was fingerprinted, handcuffed, and taken into custody. The jury found him guilty on all counts of felony hazing and manslaughter.
I hope that that scares people enough to stop it and to realize that it's not worth it.
Martin could face a maximum of 22 years behind bars for all of his charges. Martin's family wept as he was taken away. They did not want to go on camera to discuss the verdict. Robert Champion's family has also been in court every day for this trial. They tell us there are no winners in this case.
Right now, I don't have any tears. But those tears, and they will come, I can guarantee you, will not only be for my son, but for that young man.
In closing arguments, the defense argued that the, quote, crossing of Bus C was a tradition that went on for years and no one was forced to do it. They said Champion had a choice. State Attorney Jeff Ashton said he believes no one knew Champion would die, but killing by accident does not excuse a homicide. Martin's defense lawyers say they will appeal and motion for a mistrial. In Orlando, Amanda McKenzie, News 13.